gonna sit here and lie. When this was brought into my attention yesterday, I didn't know what people were talking about. I was like, Senran Kagura, they bringing it back. What are we talking about right here? And so, essentially, digging into it a bit more, seeing how people are kind of yapping about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, Senran Kagura is gonna be super dead. If it wasn't dead already, it's gonna be Omega dead when it comes down to it. Because high key, I don't understand how the people working at Marvelous is very much like, yeah, Senran Kagura is about cool characters and serious stuff. Are we watching the same series? Have we played the same games? Are you on drugs? What kind of nonsense is this shit? Basically, there was an interview that happened not too long ago with, I want to say, Yagashi and HPG. And basically, they were asking questions about, I guess, their projects that they're having or whatever. And essentially, the conversation basically devolved or just really got into, talk about the modern times, talk about, how times have changed and what they think about Senran Kagura at this standpoint. And they were basically saying things like, oh, Senran Kagura actually is a bit restrained when it comes down to, the erotic section of its, I guess, of its IP and whatever. And, characters are going to start maturing up a little bit more. And, we're going to focus more on the serious and cool side of the stories and stuff like that. Basically, as you read that interview, you're just basically like, oh, these people have literally no clue what the hell they're talking about. Like, I'm gonna be super real here. No one knows what they're doing when it comes down to this IP in any official means when it comes down to it, right? It's just baffling. Like, the moment you basically kick the original creator off, it was GG's from that point forward, right? And that's just usually typically how that kind of is. Like, the moment the original creator is gone, everything kind of goes to shit, or at least it's not going to recover the way it used to, like, how a lot of different games and media usually is. And stuff like this is like why I'm so worried about something like DOA 7 at certain points as well, right? Like, sure, we have not seen much of DOA 7, and obviously, it could still be the DOA that we all know and love. It could be, but at the same time, there's also that risk factor of who the hell is in charge, who's making X decisions, and basically, what type of game are we going to get by the time we see the next trailer? We don't really know, and it could be something that we don't really want in the slightest, right? And at the very same time, that's what we're getting with Senran Kagura, except even on a worse scale, because let's just be absolutely real here. Senran Kagura, while yes, do have strong characters, do have cool characters and cool moments at times, let's be real. It is quite literally about the booba, about the fineness, about all the lewd stuff in the world, because that's what Senran Kagura is, for the most damn part, pretty much home based on, right? That's just how it is. Like, you got something like DOA 7, or at least the DOA franchise, and you could say maybe about 50 to 50%, maybe 60 to 40, that, yeah, it is about hot women doing hot things, and also at the same time, on that 40%, it is about fighting and beating ass and doing the cool stuff, right? You can even split that to 50-50. But when it comes down to it, though, they have their identity, they know what it is, and what they should make the game to be. Senran Kagura, they basically have that shit at a 70 to maybe 75, you can even argue maybe an 80% of just straight up lewdness of what Senran Kagura is. And then the 20% is the story and other things that isn't on that spectrum when it comes down to it, right? That's quite literally what it is. Majority of the time, when you even look at Senran Kagura games, they're not really there for, like, major, serious, over the top, actually need to take it serious sort of stories when it comes down to it, right? Usually they're just out there having these characters do whatever. Yeah, there might be a serious story in there, but it's also, pretty much just having the girls fight each other, but also the fighting is basically clothes getting ripped off in different shapes and forms, and that's basically what Senran Kagura is. It wasn't anything that was meant to be, I feel like, not to take itself overly too seriously. It was just something that, having hot women do hot things, and also just being, ninjas as well when it comes down to it, right? Saying that Senran Kagura was meant to be cool or meant to be serious, and that's the side that people care about the most, is absolutely dumb. It is super damn dumb. There is no damn way I can sit here and just look at somebody like Hibari, for example, and say, yes, there's something serious about Hibari that we must concern ourselves with. Like, no, she's basically the cute girl that basically also gets tall and big as hell, also giantess type tip, and will smash you with her butt. What about that is supposed to be serious? The same way you can look at literally like many other characters within the damn series as a whole. Yes, you do have serious characters at a time, but even then, they're never really taken too seriously themselves. Hell, when the characters fight, there's usually never really any blood that's like shown. It's always just clothes ripping. Clothes ripping, and how you defeat the character is basically when you get them stripped up naked as a whole, and it's like, alright, that's it. That's the end of the match. You won. You proving your point. There has been no point in the series where you need to actually body somebody to actually get something like that going. Has there been bodying in the series before? Absolutely. But is it to that high serious degree? No. Senran Kagura has his identity within the lewd ninja ladies when it comes down to it, and effectively what they've been trying to do since 2019 and what they still feel like they are going to do is just keep going on this tangent of, we know what Senran Kagura actually is when they legitimately don't. Which I find hilarious, by the way, that Brown Dust 2, is a game that exists, and they're recently announcing that they're going to do another Senran Kagura collab when it comes down to it, so I have a chance to go get Haikage now. But when it comes down to it though, literally I'm like, you mean telling me people in South Korea that made this game for Brown Dust 2, they know more about how to handle characters, your own characters, than you do? That's a little strange. That's a little weird and laughable when it comes down to it. And this is genuinely how I just feel across the board when it comes down to Japan, especially in this day and age that we're kind of in now. Something like Brown Dust 2 should have been Japan's idea. Something like a Zenless should have been Japan's idea. It is baffling how South Korea and China, who is arguably more restricted on things like that than anybody else in the Eastern Territories, how they can produce that sort of content, know how to cook with it, and then absolutely just do well and make hella fat stacks of cash, where Japan just absolutely just don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. They don't know what to cook, they don't know how to go about certain things, and all that sort of jazz, and it's just like, what the hell are y'all even doing over there for the most part? Especially when it comes down to games that is of the riskier nature, that is a bit more of the more erotic nature when it comes down to it, because you used to be the masters at that. Now y'all just act like y'all don't even know what the hell that is, and you basically try to wipe it away like it never really existed, like how you had the whole lolicon boom in the 80s. Like, bitch, we all know it was there. We know you was cooking some crazy stuff back then. Don't act like it never existed. Which also gives me to another tangent, because one of the people that was in this interview was basically saying that, oh, I pay attention to the game industry and see how people kind of move, how things kind of are going. Do you? I don't think you do. Because let's keep it very much a stack. If you paid attention to the game industry for real, you would know when you make a game for everybody, it basically is a game for nobody, right? You should easily already know that people have thrown out many ideas of games that's supposed to cater to everybody. These quote-unquote safe ideas for the company so they can put out something that people of all kinds can really enjoy, but ultimately no one goes to them because they're usually bland, usually generic, usually cater to a certain set of people that does not really exist, nor do they really care to play the game even if they do exist, essentially, right? And you're willing to sacrifice life and limb and identity and millions of dollars just to try to cater to people who will never be a part of your franchise and never really will care to that high extent, like, ever. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, which is why I am so annoyed that a lot of companies don't bother throwing out risky ideas anymore for games, or just for, anime or whatever, right? Because a lot of people try to go for these very safe ideas, these very, I guess, like, normal ideas, so that way if things go bad, they don't lose too much money. But then at the same time, They lose a lot of money as it is. So why not just chuck a risky idea down and then see what people think about it? And then 9 times out of 10, you might get something good out there. You might not get something good out there when it comes down to it. It depends on the timing and depends on the people and what type of idea you're about to throw down. That's quite literally how it is. I would rather you go for more riskier ideas than this play it safe culture that basically makes no one want to innovate shit when it comes down to it. And then again, the only innovators that is actually saving the day, that's actually showing some real deal good ingenuity with the anime art styles and whatever, is literally people that is not in Japan. It's literally people that's within South Korea or China or wherever the hell you have it. Even some on the indies in the West in America, they cook way harder to a point than what you currently have with certain lewd, erotic things that Japan could come up with at times. They're not going to be listening to the fans when it comes down to any new Senran Kagura game and any new project that they're going to, involve themselves into. They're never going to do that. If they were actually going to listen, they would have never had that moment where the original creator of Senran Kagura dipped off from Marvelous in the first damn place. That's the whole reason why he dipped off and, went on ahead and made Katakawa Jet Girls. Because essentially, yeah, they were literally straining the shit out of him with all these restrictions, and he couldn't really work in any environment that he really wants to and produce the works that he really, know was gonna cook. But ultimately, Marvelous said, nah, that's enough from you, and then quite literally tried to take the reins from him, and it never been the same ever since. Which is why I'm also kind of scared of the idea that we could face a future where the older Senran Kagura games could get a remaster and then the originals could get delisted, and then those remaster could very much just have like modes or certain designs straight up changed up because of how whack Marvelous is now. I would hate that to like a high extent, just obviously for many different reasons. Hell, it's the reason why still to this day I haven't got Burst Renewal when it comes down to the elder Senran Kagura game that was like on console from a while ago, right? Solely because, at least on PlayStation, they removed the whole ass, modeling mode, essentially. They removed the whole, mode where you just get to look at the bodies of the different ninja ladies and then just do whatever, pose them up and whatever for pictures and however and stuff like that. I never understood the decision for that. I never understood why that was the case, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? And it's only Japan. It only feels like Japan is the one that's getting hoed, and I'm surprised that no developer in Japan is questioning, wait, so China and South Korea can do whatever the hell they want to, but when we want to do something, for whatever reason, that's like the sin against the world or something like that. Like, what is the deal here? No one in Japan is asking these sort of questions, because like I said before, Japan should be the one that be, throwing out some of these ideas of these very popular games that we see get like all this recognition. They should be the one jumping at the gun, basically ready to drop out some of these ideas, but for some reason they're not doing so. Like, I ain't gonna say here and lie, something like Stellar Blade, for example, was created by obviously Shift Up in South Korea. That should have been Japan's idea. Why the hell did they not make something like this? Because they're getting hoed, and because so many things are just in the West infiltrating their space to the point they can't make shit anymore the way they used to. Because I gotta tell you, it gets to a point when, devs like this can't really, I guess like give you an idea for a game and then actually commit to it and do what the hell they want to. And essentially it gets to a point where you're not getting the things that you want, that at some point the fans of those very same games and animations and whatever that they enjoy and love are just gonna start creating that shit themselves. Because if Japan can't effing do it and they keep screwing up with these decisions, or they keep listening to the wrong people about certain game decisions or whatever, then people are just gonna make their own shit, and then they're just gonna basically do the things that they that obviously the IP that they used to like, they'll just do the decisions for them and basically make the games that they really want to make themselves. Which, for me personally, all this shit does when I see stuff like this happen, makes me really more amped up to get this channel going to where it needs to be, so we can make a game for ourselves, so we can, produce something to showcase, like, you see this? this right here, this is the game people want to see. This is the type of stuff people want to see in the game. Stop hoeing your creativeness and actually do something with it. Stop playing it safe 5 times out of the way just so you don't necessarily offend someone. Make some risky ass content. No one cares. You should be able to do it wherever the hell you want to, because if these other countries can, why the hell can't you do it? Again, I still can't believe how a game company, or at least a game like Brown Dust 2 with their collaboration with Senran Kagura, understands the excitement or the assignment a lot more and 10 million times better than Marvelous ever could. Like, let them produce a Senran Kagura game, and I promise you that will make more bank than whatever the hell Marvelous could ever possibly do when it comes down to, you know, what they're going to try to push Senran Kagura to be in this less lewd and more serious sort of era of the series when it comes down to it. And I promise you, if they actually commit to it, just like with DOA and whatever, I promise you, no one's going to really sit there and want to buy that shit. No one's going to sit here and just make that a bestseller, because there ain't no damn way that's going to work. It's just not it. It's going to be a betrayal of the fans. It's going to be a betrayal of basically the series itself. And the only ones that thinking that it's not a betrayal is going to be the executives at Marvelous themselves when it comes down to it, because they're the only ones, they're blind as hell. And even if people do buy those sort of games when it comes down to it, you know who's going to be really up to it to fix the problems of the game and make the game what it should be, instead of what Marvelous and, you know, what Koei Tecmo could make their games to be in the future? It's going to be up to us. It's going to be up to the modders. It's going to be up to them to basically mod the game, do the right thing, and actually make the games what they should be, instead of what they decide them to be. Because I'm not going to sit here and lie. There is, again, quite literally no reason as to why we are sitting in this point in time where we are debating what idea actually works in terms of, you know, how to go about, you know, showcasing a game to other people. We know what works. We know how it actually can go on the general public sort of side of things, on the fan sort of side of things. We want lewd and risky content that basically is what the identity of those games are. If you do anything less of that, people will notice and people will call you out on the BS that is that. I want to pay for what actually is supposed to be there, what the actual identity of that game is, right? That's what I care about at the end of the day. So if you're not giving me that, then F it, we ball, we make our own damn game, or at the end of the day, we'll find someone else that is, you know, giving us what we need when it comes down to it. And again, there is many different options that is out there. There is many different people that very much will try to hold those options and, you know, have some of them to almost cave in, and maybe do cave in at times, like how we've seen with Snowbreak and how they're still on break right now, and how we saw with Round Us 2 earlier this year, how they almost caved in, but they actually, you know, went back and said, nah, F that, we're just gonna make some compromises with certain countries, and then we'll just still continue to produce the content that we really want to do so, which, if you played like that mini game they put out recently with the whole, you know, puzzle picture piece thing, that's some hot material right there. I'm gonna sit there and lie. But essentially, you get the dang point though, right? Do you genuinely think by listening to everybody, that's how a lot of these gacha games and them be like really big sellers and have people to play those games all the time? People don't give a damn if a game is predatory with their, you know, pulling mechanics and things like that, or how the game operates. If the game is giving people something that they want to enjoy and play, then they will absolutely get into it and they'll play it no matter how wild or weird or expensive that game is. Which, by the way, is something that Itagaki said himself many years ago, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that, you know, as long as you make a product that people actually want to, you know, play, then people will pay it and pay whatever they want for it. That's essentially how it is, and that is a extremely true statement. No matter how sad it might be, it is a true statement.
I'm creating entertainment rather than just a video game. So in terms of entertainment, it's quite natural for me to create beautiful women. It makes sense rather than bringing ugly women into the game. It's very simple. Naturally.
No violence.
Violence. Entertainment. Beauty. Sex. Gambling. Gambling means that if people really like playing a game, then they'll pay whatever it costs. And that's all.
At the end of the day, we want true identity of what the games are. We want games to be actually fun and actually feel like there's passion behind said game that people are making when it comes down to it. And ultimately, we just want something that isn't for everybody. We want something that fits a niche of what it is. We want people to fit their, category of game that they want to play and all that sort of stuff. And essentially, we want it just for ourselves, essentially, right? That's basically how it is, right? And if people want to get involved into it, new people want to get involved into it, they're going to have to learn how to adapt to that sort of culture of the game, adapt to that sort of like lifestyle of said game or whatever, because no reason at all that anything like a Senran Kagura, anything like, a DLA or whatever exists out there should not be sacrificing the identity of what those projects are and what those series are and what they stand for normally and naturally, then, try to mix them up, change them up for everybody to enjoy and play when it comes down to it. Because again, if you try to do that, it's never going to sell, and the people that you're trying to sell it to will never show up because they don't exist. They aren't there. And at this standpoint, with all the games has failed and come by and failed and whatever, you would think Marvelous would have seen that by now and understood the error of their ways, but because it takes some idiots to lose some money before they actually understand what the hell's going on, and even more so after that, just insane backlash before we get to that damn point, it's gonna be a while before we ever, if ever, see Senran Kagura, get to a point of where they could be. So that's essentially all I really got to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification on your way out. Also follow my socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's my boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.